I want to understand this idea of a exclusion, sort of acts of exclusion. So you were walking down the road one day and you thought, wow, I feel excluded. Let me write about it. I don't like this microaggression stuff. What is exclusion and what is microaggression?
So the microaggression is any act or word or deed behavior that makes someone feel like they are otherized, like they are being pushed to the outside, like they don't belong, like they're a curiosity. And the purpose of the book, in part, was to rebrand the term microaggression to subtle act of exclusion. Microaggression has the word aggression built into it, and it puts people on the defensive, and there's really nothing micro about it. If it's you who's on the receiving end of it, it can feel enormous, and it can feel, very, very insulting and belittling. So the act might be subtle, but it is an act of exclusion that makes people feel like they don't belong.
And whose fault is it if a person is so weak they can be made to feel that way?
It's not always a matter of fault, because it is, I write mostly in the context of the workplace, right? So as an employer, any given employer has a responsibility to ensure the safety, psychological and physical, of the people who work within the workplace. So if every time I show up at a meeting as a female identified person, people talk over me, they disrespect the comments that I make, they assume that I'm going to take the notes because, I was assigned female at birth, they're constantly marginalizing me and putting me in a place that is less than their own status as men, for instance. So in the context of a workplace, these microaggressions or subtle acts of exclusion can have real world consequences and prevent people from being promoted and from having opportunities to really excel in their careers.
Amazing. And so let's say men and women are in a meeting, and we all know that men are stronger than women. Women are going to feel insecure anyway. How should the man deal with that insecure woman?
I will not agree with you and say that we know that men are stronger than women. My three ex-husbands would be evidence to the contrary. So I can tell you that society at large might share that narrative and promote that narrative. So what happens is you do get that gender minorities, women, non-binary people might inadvertently or intentionally play into a narrative that places us in that position. So that would be my first challenge. But what we do is first of all, we look at bias, not only at the individual level, but we look at it at the institutional level. So we want to make sure that our companies don't have systems, structures, and processes in place that support that kind of gender bias or any other kind of bias. So we have to check our leaders, we have to check our hiring managers, and make sure that the first thing that they're privileging is someone's qualification to do the job. And they're being assigned tasks based on their ability to do the task at hand, and it makes sure that it has nothing to do with their gender or gender assignment.
If I hire someone that took or acted that way, I can't babysit them. I'll just let them go, because these are adults we are talking about. And when I hire someone, I'm not going to be their mama. I'm not going to, of course I want respect in the business. I want order, but you can't babysit a weak person. So you had 3 husbands?
I did.
And did you destroy them?
I did not destroy them. I gave them, I left them better than I found them.
Were they weak?
But they could not handle the strength that was me.
Oh.
We were not compatible in that way. In their mind, they might have assumed that women were submissive or were weaker, and that is certainly not the case with me.
What was strong? What is it about you they could not handle?
I think it was different in each case, but I would say that as people evolve, like you might find somebody in one place. For me, one of the definitions of love is to embrace someone with so much grace and compassion that you want to grow along with them, alongside them, but you allow them the freedom to grow into the person who they are meant to be. higher power, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, put me here on a mission to help heal and liberate hearts and minds all over the world. And so my light cannot be hidden under a bushel and shown only on one person who wants to keep that for them. I have to be in the world, professing my testimony, doing what I do, sharing my inspiration and insight, because that's what I'm here to do. So in each various iteration, the way that I show up in the world proved to be a little bit overwhelming for people who would be my partners.
And were all of your husbands black?
No, the last one was white.
Really? So you wiped out the two black ones, so you're like, let me try a white one. And you
I know, I thought maybe that was it. I didn't know that was not it. It was just me, boo-boo. It was just me. I am on fire, and I'm here to serve, and ain't nobody going to get in my way. You're either going to support me and move with me, or you're going to have to step aside.
Do you have children?
I do. Phenomenal children. I have a 23-year-old son who has a computer science degree. He graduated in June in the pandemic. I have a 22-year-old daughter who is about to graduate from Harvard in economics. And I have a 13-year-old daughter who is a polymath and plays 8 instruments and sings with perfect pitch, as a composer and an engineer. Amazing.
And so you have children by all 3 husbands?
No, I didn't make one with the white man.
Oh, no. So let me ask.
I'm just gonna leave that there.
So you're into understanding microaggression. Were you microaggressive with these men?
I would say that if I got aggressive, I was aggressive. I'm not subtle. There's nothing subtle about me.
Right.
So I'm the kind of person who will speak their mind. The nature of microaggression. So I study organizational development, and that's my 4th book that I've written. My books have been on issues of bias, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and justice, right?
Yeah.
So microaggressions are the manifestation of our own biases, whether conscious or unconscious. So I would say that yes, my microaggressions in the direction of my husband's would have been made manifest from my buying into some of the narratives about the expectations of what a husband is supposed to be. So I think that I overlaid my assumptions, my stereotypes, and what I expected, rather than allowing those people to be who they are and create agreements that worked for us. Amazing. So I would say that yes, I made assumptions and that didn't work out.
Are you a Christian?
Yeah, I was raised Roman Catholic, but I would say I'm just kind of generally spiritual. But yes, Jesus Christ is my man.
How do you deal with the order of God? God and Christ, Christ over man, man over woman, and woman over children. Women who are married, their husband is their head. How do you deal with that as a Christian?
So at the time that I was married, I was very strongly Christian identified, and that turned out to be one of the problems, because whenever you ascribe yourself to or subscribe to any particular philosophy, theory, worldview, there is an expectation that you actually embrace that. So it was my assumption that my partners also embraced that. That's what they told me. But if you're not actually stepping into the place and living into that and sort of occupying that life, then if you leave a void, then things fall out of order. So for me, the Christian model of marriage did not work because my husbands were not falling into that particular, they thought that they were into it in that way, but it did not make manifest, at which point it pushed me higher into the order because my relationship with God was closer than theirs. So you've got to have that alignment in order for that to work.
I have said to men for a long time now that if they want to get married and start a family, they should not marry an educated woman, because an educated woman act like a man. She thinks she is a man, and she doesn't want to be home, be the wife and the mother to his children. It sounds like that you didn't want to be a wife and a mother. You wanted to go out and work and act like a man.
No,
so you
I
would not have made for a good wife.
No, I completely disagree with you. I stopped my first degree one semester shy of graduating to get married and have children. I chose to stay at home and grow a garden, and I attachment parented my children. I made organic food. I was a nursing mother. I was a stay-at-home mother. It was my plan to homeschool. So I made the commitment to be the stay-at-home parent, and joyfully so. Those were some of the best years of my life. My first marriage ended with domestic violence was the problem there.
Oh, you beat him up?
Excuse me?
You beat up your husband?
No, I probably should have, but I'm not a violent person. So I'm not going to stand around and allow someone to abuse me psychologically or physically. God did not have that in God's plan for humanity. So that's that. So when I was home raising my children, it was I started my company after I left him because he was the breadwinner, and I was, I would have loved for that to have lasted forever, but it was unsafe for me and my children. And I had to figure out how to take care of my children. So my company started because I needed to feed myself and my children. And I wanted to be the kind of mother that I wanted to be. I didn't want to sacrifice being at their games, baking cakes for them and being the mother that I was. And no company was going to let me kind of, work when they were with me, work when they were with him, and be at home when they were with me. So I created my own company so that I could be the mother that I wanted to be, because that's always been my number one job and my very best.
Did you try that with all three husbands and it didn't work?
Yeah, so the second husband is still my best friend. My youngest child is from my second husband. We are still very, very close. And with him, with everybody is not compatible in that way. We came together to make that third child. She is an absolute blessing to the world and to us, and we're a blessing to each other. But we were better off as friends than we were as spouses. For sure.
Oh, okay.